Hey everyone, welcome to Hope for the Agora, where we have real conversations about mental health, faith, and the places where life gets messy, and that usually means it becomes meaningful. So before we get going, though, I want to share something cool with you that even though we are part of Agora Network Ministries, we have our own website for the podcast now, so you can catch up on episodes, find helpful information, and stay in touch. And you can find us at hopefortheagora.com. You can also find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube. So yeah, you can stay caught up with us and follow along and share with your friends as much as you would like. And we'd like you to do it a lot. That'd be cool. Anyways, today's conversation is one of those, wait, what? Moments, because we're talking with a psychotherapist, and her name's Laura Bruno. I'll introduce her a little bit in a moment. And so she's someone who has spent years helping other people understand their minds, and then had this moment where she realized, oh, this is me. So she's recently been diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. And honestly, that's happening more than people think. In fact, I recently heard of a number of people who said, I just got diagnosed with ADHD. In fact, two of my boys have ADHD, and they've both said to me, Dad, we think you might have ADHD. And I think they might be right, but I seem to be doing okay. And, I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens with our conversation with Laura today. But there's a growing body of research from a lot of different places like National Institute of Mental Health and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and lots of other places that is showing that ADHD doesn't just appear after childhood. A lot of people thought that that was the case, but it often just goes unrecognized. And so today we're going to talk about what that looks like from the inside, the surprise of diagnosis, the hidden struggles, the identity shift, and maybe most importantly, there's hope on the other side. That's why we're called Hope for the Agora. There's always hope. God brings hope. Community brings hope. So this is going to be honest. It's going to be insightful and probably, I would think, a little freeing for some of you who are listening or watching. So let's jump in. And I just want to welcome Laura Bruno. Laura is a psychotherapist here in the Niagara region of Ontario, Canada, who runs her own practice with a great team with her. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. And you've been a supporter of Agora Network Ministries for a while. You do some
I
of our
have.
academy stuff, right?
I do. Yeah, the Building Resilience course. I was on the board for a number of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Agora has a special place in my heart. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, let's start here, okay? Because this is the part that kind of stops people in their tracks. So you're a psychotherapist.
hmm
You've been helping people navigate their mental health for years. Like how long have you been doing this? For a while
I've
now.
been in the mental health field for almost 20 years, believe it or not.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So now then take us to that moment when to that moment. When did you first start to realize, hey, wait, this might be me?
Yeah, it was interesting because I ADHD and being, neurodivergent, and that's not an area that I specialize in as a therapist. It's not an area that I have a ton of training on. And so, of course, I would relate to some clients as they, would talk about their ADHD, but I'm a trauma therapist. That's primarily what I focus on, trauma, nervous system regulation. I do a lot of first responders and supporting them and things
Mhm.
like that. So it wasn't that people were coming directly to me for support with their ADHD, because I actually have members of my team who specialize in this and have, the passion for serving that population and the specialized trainings and all of that. So it wasn't always an area of focus that clients would present we were doing our work together. And yet there were definitely moments where they would disclose, oh, I have this diagnosis. And we would talk about some of the symptoms. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that tracks, check, check, check in my head.
Hmm.
But I didn't think much of it because I remember when I taught abnormal psychology at Niagara College, which is the course in which you learn about all the different mental illnesses and all the different diagnoses that are in the DSM, the book that the psychiatrists use to
Right.
formally diagnose. Um, I told all my students, I said, listen, we are going to learn about all these diagnoses. You're going to walk out of here every single week thinking, I have this, or my brother has this, or my parent has this, because all of us experience some of the symptoms of every single mental health illness, right?
Hmm. Right.
And because ADHD isn't like a psychosis, where it's like, okay, not everyone experiences hallucinations or delusions. Those are kind of an outliner. Everyone's going to experience difficulty completing tasks. Everyone's going to experience overwhelm. Everyone's going to experience difficulty focusing. So as they were kind of sharing their experience with ADHD, I was like, yeah, that tracks, but not necessarily connecting myself to it fully.
Hmm.
And it was actually my own therapist who said 5 words to me that was this, ooh, kind of aha moment almost. And she said, I think it's 5 words, you're not neurotypical.
Okay.
And I guess she said, right? So I guess it's 6 words technically. And again, this is someone I've worked with for a while. We have this, great rapport. And so I appreciate it. And I'm just someone who likes people being blunt. But no one had ever said that to me before.
Wow. So was it a slow realization, like, or more like a light bulb moment when suddenly everything started connecting?
Yeah, when I heard that, it just caused me to pause. And I am very aware and somatically aware of what a yes feels like in my body, what a no feels like in my body. I know when something is aligned, when something is not.
Hmm.
And so I knew it wasn't a no. I knew when I heard that statement, my body didn't go, nope, doesn't fit. But I wasn't fully to the, oh, yeah, that's me for sure.
Hmm.
So it was this moment of pause. And I took a couple months actually before I even brought it up to her again, before I even went into exploring it again and saying, yeah, okay, I've thought about it. And I took some time just to reflect and kind of take a little bit of self inventory and truthfully educate myself a little bit more about it because again, this isn't an area I specialized in.
Right.
And
Right.
so I guess, that's kind of my discovery story, if you will, which
Yeah.
is it it was 5 or 6 words that kind of just, oh yeah, okay, maybe she's
Wow.
right.
Yeah. You start connecting the dots. You know,
Hmm.
it's fascinating because we're seeing more and more adults, especially high functioning adults, getting diagnosed later in life. I mean, there's, research coming out, journals like JMA, the JAMA, whatever you
Hmm.
guys call it. Psychiatry suggests that a lot of people didn't miss ADHD, they just learned how to mask it really well. I think that might,
100%.
maybe that's me. You just learn to mask it really well. Give our projected self. This is what I want you to see.
Yep.
So I think a lot of people still picture ADHD as this hyper kid bouncing off the walls, right? But adult ADHD often looks very different.
Hmm.
So, like from your own experience, what were the signs that uh, were there? You would say probably there all along, but just didn't get labeled.
Yeah, it's so funny because this is the only brain I've ever had, right? So it's just the only brain I've ever known. And so I didn't really think much of it. And again, I wasn't, I, you know, the the kid bouncing off the walls. I wasn't the kid that struggled in school. I did really great in school. I loved school. I
Hmm.
excelled there. I didn't have difficulty sitting still or anything like that as a child. So my first thought was like, did I just develop this as an adult? Like, or was this always here? And because I didn't present as the typical, like you said, bouncing off the walls child.
Yeah.
But when you learn a little bit more about adult ADHD and how it shows up, and that was kind of my pause and let's like reflect and let it percolate for a little bit. It was in those couple months where I was learning a little bit more, and I said, oh, yeah, that's me when learning some of these kind of markers of adult ADHD. One of the biggest ones was that I was always late and I was always rushing.
Mm.
And bless my husband because, he is someone who is on time. I have a sister-in-law who is always late as well, so that worked in my favor.
He
But
goes, I understand this. I grew up with this.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that actually was his brother's wife. But again,
Okay,
within the
okay.
family
Yeah, yeah.
dynamic, it's kind of nice because I'm like, okay, it's not just me. Um, And so that kind of always rushing, always late, the sense of urgency. Something I knew that I did have that I didn't realize was a high correlation to ADHD was misophonia. And so misophonia is
Hmm.
this, for those that don't know what it is, it's this like strong emotional and physical reaction to specific sounds.
Ah,
So
I was going to ask, what is that?
yeah, yeah. Oh no, I was acutely aware of this because I grew up with two parents who snore, and my room was right on the other side of theirs. And the rage I would feel as
Oh
I'm
my
like, I
goodness.
just need to sleep.
Deal with your sleep apnea over
Yeah,
there.
yeah. They have,
Oh,
thankfully.
good.
Um, and the ironic thing is I married someone who also snores, so that is
It's
just
hard not to find someone who doesn't snore, it seems.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. But anyway, so I knew that I had misophonia, which is again this kind of really intense response from a nervous system perspective to specific sounds. So it's like snoring, breathing really heavy, chewing, like people chewing popcorn in movies. And there's this urgency to like escape the sound because your
Hmm.
system is just too overwhelmed with it. And it's not, again, that it's loud necessarily or like to someone else who doesn't have this. Um, they'd be like, just don't focus on it. But
Mm.
I knew my brain couldn't not. It was the only thing I could hear. And so again, I was acutely aware of this from very young that I had this. And then when I realized, oh, again, a lot of individuals with ADHD also have misophonia. So that was another kind of light bulb moment or, connecting the dots moment.
Yeah. What are
Um,
what are some other markers that that are in adults?
yeah.
Yeah.
For me personally, again, because it presents differently in everyone. So
Right.
um, I'll just kind of speak to my own experience. So the racing thoughts, the mental clutter, perfectionism, these were kind of some links there.
Mm-hmm.
This high functioning, I always just thought I had high functioning anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're high functioning externally. So externally, you look like you have it all together and you're doing it all. But internally, you're just so overwhelmed and dysregulated.
Right.
And so, being a business owner and a mother
Mm-hmm.
and doing all the things, right? And volunteering and doing this and that and wearing all these hats, people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you have it all together." But
Right.
internally, it's not the same.
So
It's
for
not
you,
matching.
right, for you is a lot more internal than external. Things like overwhelm, racing thoughts, difficulty starting or finishing tasks. Was that one of them too? Like, get really.
Yes. Yeah. So I do think it was probably a combo of both. Definitely the internal, but there were definitely behaviors and things that I did externally to try and cope, even though I didn't know
Sure.
I was coping.
Right.
So the amount of lists that I would have everywhere,
Ah, okay.
um, that was kind of a sign. I did get stuck into this hyper focus or avoidant kind of dynamic, which we see a lot with adult ADHD, which
Mm-hmm.
means I could throw myself into what I loved and what excited me, and I could hyper focus on that, and I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
which luckily for me is my work. So
Yeah, good thing.
I love work. I loved being with my clients, and people thought, "What's wrong with you? You're a trauma therapist. How do you love this so much?" But I would get that reprieve from the constant kind of mental rumination and clutter that would happen outside of the sessions, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
my brain would fire off in a way that felt peaceful and calm and regulated.
Right. Right.
So
Which in
I,
many respects for some people that would be like that's odd. Like you
yeah,
were saying, people are, why would you do that?
right.
But it's almost a type of distraction, if you will,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I knew that I would avoid things that would activate me like, and then there were simple things like filling out forms or paperwork or, oh my goodness, taxes or
Uh,
stuff like that. Bless my husband because again, his mind is not like my mind, so those are easy things for him to do. Thankfully, even though he snores, he does our taxes.
I still love him. I still love
I
him.
love him. So recognizing that that was also a big component and that I was purposefully seeking out environments, places, people, or situations that would allow me to have this reprieve. So breath
Mm,
work, meditation, yoga. One of my favorite things was to go to Williams, put my headphones on. I'd have
mm.
my worship piano playlist that I listen to. It's called Focus, literally on my phone, and I'd hammer out, 3 hours of work because I felt at peace.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Hmm.
So that's great. That's kind of neat. I start I'm starting to think about myself over the years now.
Hmm.
Cuz like I am a self-taught many things.
Right.
And like when I was learning to play guitar, always wanted to play guitar, then it so happened that someone lent me a guitar. Do you think I could put that down? And
Right.
as I learned something new, I'd be like, oh, I just kept going and going. My kids were little. We'd take them next door to the park behind, well, to the playground behind the school next door. And I'd bring my guitar, and while they're playing, hey, daddy, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get this chord progression down. Like, leave me
Right.
alone.
Yeah.
Right. And other things, like even what I'm doing now. I never went to school for this, but yet it so intrigued me. I learned these things. So I've learned multiple instruments that way.
Hmm.
I think I excel at my pastoral work for probably some of the same reasons, but there are also some of the same reasons there are certain things in my life I would prefer to avoid.
Yes.
But I don't, like, this is not about me, but I guess I'm reflecting here. And I am not one to quickly get overwhelmed with stuff, though.
Right. Right.
I don't have like, kind of, it's all coming at me at once. What do I do? So I
Right.
don't know. I don't know. Maybe some form of neurodivergent. Maybe it's adult ADHD. I don't know. But like we say, we can mask things well. So
Definitely.
yeah.
And I will say for me, that sense of urgency was a big kind of key factor of being like, oh yes, that is it. When I look at it from a nervous system perspective, right? The things on my
Mm-hmm.
to-do list weren't just things on my to-do list, they were threats. And until I got
Oh.
them kind of crossed off, again, that's why I always said I had high functioning anxiety because I'm so productive. I would do all the things. I'd stay up till 2 a.m. and get all the things done on my to-do list because
Mm,
the urgency, my system saw it as a threat. And
wow.
so, I laugh now because I'm on the other side of it, and I'm sure we'll get into that, what that kind of looks like. But I have a pillow that I have to return to Walmart, and this is going to sound so silly, but it's been in my car for a week. And historically, that would have never happened. because I wouldn't have been able to tolerate the fact that I have to return this pillow to Walmart for a
Okay.
week.
Yeah, yeah.
And now I can. And now
Oh,
I can be like, oh, next time I'm at Walmart, whenever that may be, I will return
cool.
this pillow versus I have to return this pillow to Walmart right now.
Oh, wow. I've heard this the ADHD uh described less as an attention problem and more as a
Hmm.
regulation problem. So
Yeah.
does that resonate with your experience?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
I think recognizing, oh, my system is activated. That
Mm-hmm.
is why I am responding the way I am, and understanding it from that lens was really helpful. Again, nervous system stuff is the thing I specialize in. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I teach. This is what I do. So, being able to see it through that lens was really helpful for me to say, oh, yes, okay, I can understand this. I identify with that.
Yeah, I can see where that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Uh, one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough, probably when it comes to this part of ADHD, is the emotional side of ADHD. I mean,
Mm.
there's research that shows strong links between ADHD, anxiety, depression. But from the inside, what did that feel like for you?
Yeah, I kind of just always wrote myself off as high functioning anxiety, and that's how I identified for years.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't that nothing was working, it was that I was working so hard to make things work, if that makes
Okay.
sense,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It wasn't that my life was falling apart. It wasn't that I was dropping the ball. It wasn't that my business was going under. All things were thriving and going well. But the amount of effort I had to put out, the amount of, again, anxiety that was accompanying
Mm,
all the productivity, I had to work so hard to make all the things work.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, that constant kind of mental load, feeling close to burnout many times, right? And I again, am grateful that I'm self-aware enough and I have the knowledge and I've created the supports around myself to help
Mm-hmm.
myself not tip over to the burnout.
Right.
But there's been times where I'm like, okay, I'm white knuckling and I know that I'm close. So um,
That's
just,
good to be aware.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you ever feel like then, like, why can't I just get it together? Was there frustration, that sense of shame, self-doubt kind of thing?
I would say definitely more in the moments where there were simple tasks that I was avoiding, that
Mm-hmm.
I could kind of zoom out and say, okay, I know that registering my kid for soccer is not a threat. Why is my system responding like it's a threat?
Yeah.
And so I think because I was able to have that perspective, I didn't get into the shame spiral, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah. Right.
I took more of a curiosity perspective and lens over a judgment lens. And I think that's what allowed me to stay afloat for so long because I didn't fall into that shame spiral, thankfully.
Oh, yeah. Thankfully. Yeah.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
internal narrative can get pretty harsh
Yes.
sometimes, right? Almost
Yeah.
like you're measuring yourself against a standard you were never wired for.
Yeah, 100%. I wasn't lazy. I was dysregulated. There wasn't anything wrong with me. I was wired differently.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I imagine getting a diagnosis like this doesn't just like answer all the questions. It probably rewrites your story a bit.
Hmm.
What changed for you after you were diagnosed?
I think the biggest thing is I just gained clarity and I got language around my experience. It didn't change how I show up or what I do because I had already implemented strategies and things in my life to allow me to function and be productive and
Right,
thrive. So
right,
it wasn't that, oh, I have to change my whole life and how I do things, but it just gave me language, and clarity was probably the biggest thing.
right.
And truthfully, I was hesitant to do anything about it at first. Like
Oh,
to
okay.
explore medication or do anything because I love my brain. I for as much of chaos
You
that
have a
happened,
nice brain.
I love my brain. I like how it fires off. I know that especially in the work that I do with my clients and the trauma work that I do, the way it fires off and my ability, I kind of almost, I'm a visual person, so it's almost like I'm in it with the person, I'm talking to them, but in the background, you know those TV shows where they're trying to like solve a mystery or a murder and there's like pictures everywhere and there's yarn
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're connecting all the dots back there.
That's what was happening in the background for me. So I was like, I like that I can be fully present and have this running in the background, helping me make connections to provide to them that help them heal.
That's
So
brilliant.
I didn't want to give that up.
No.
And I was really hesitant around exploring medication. I am on medication, and we can talk a little bit about that. But at first, I was very hesitant to do that. I wanted to protect the way my mind worked, um,
Mm.
because I
Mhm.
was proud of it and I loved it, and I didn't want to not be me anymore. So
Right.
there was some fear that I had to kind of work through before I started medication. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's yeah, maybe some grief in there too, right? Was there
Hmm.
a sense of loss? Like I've lost something in this whole thing, discovering this about myself? I mean, were there moments you were like looking back at your life differently?
Yeah, I think it was less about grief I was experiencing because truthfully, once I started the medications, it was wonderful. But my fear was around, oh, I'm going to have grief, right? My
Mm-hmm.
fear was I'm going to be someone completely different. But once I, again, worked through that and, in therapy and doing my own work, I remember, and this is a moment I will, those 6 words my therapist said to me, I will remember forever. And this one moment that happened, I will remember forever, which is I was standing at my kitchen sink and I was rinsing raspberries to give to my daughter, and I started crying. And the reason I started crying was because I said, oh my goodness, I feel so calm. I am literally just standing here rinsing raspberries, and that is the only thing that I am thinking about right now.
Wow.
And that was only like a week after starting medication, and at a very, very low, the lowest dose you possibly could. And that was a big moment for me of, okay, this is confirmation that my yes to say yes to medication was the right choice for me. And that may not be the right choice for everyone, and that's okay. And we
Mm-hmm.
can, get into that later. But for me, that was a big moment of, my therapist explained it like there's an orchestra going on inside of your head. And with the medication, it's going to feel like they're all playing the same song.
Oh, wow. That's a
Yeah.
that's a neat picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
did really, really feel that and was just so grateful for that.
Wow.
Hmm.
So let's I'm going to shift here a little bit.
Hmm.
So for a long time,
Hmm.
ADHD has been talked about primarily, almost entirely in terms of deficits, but there's a growing
Yes.
shift that's highlighting strengths connected to ADHD, things like
Mm.
creativity, intuition, problem solving. Have you started to see any of that in your own life? Like, what are the not deficits?
Yeah.
What are the strengths?
And this makes such a difference, right? The perspective and how we choose to view this
Mm-hmm.
can really make a big impact on how we walk with this. So I could have said, oh, I'm not neurotypical and I'm less than, and there's something wrong
Mm-hmm.
with me, and my brain isn't like I could have gone through that. And instead, I took a based lens. Again, this is what I teach and do for
Yeah.
my clients. I was like, let's apply this to yourself. So it was a Thank you. Like, thank you, God, for this beautiful brain that allows me to hyper focus on the things that I love and I'm passionate about. And I always believe that your passions are connected to your purpose. And
Hmm.
so, it helped me feel more connected to, my faith, um, being more intuitive spiritually as well, and opening myself up to that. Um, the energy that I receive when I am in it, when I am in, the flow state or the zone or whatever
Hmm.
you want to call it, feeling that joy and feeling that peace at the same time. This is what I feel when I'm with my clients. So I just think it was such a gift to be able to experience those things, which if I didn't have this brain, I probably wouldn't, well, not probably, it wouldn't be the same experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. I love the way you put that. And that is so encouraging to not look at it as a deficit, you
Hmm.
know, which the world has so long said, but to say, man, there's some amazing things. Like I talked earlier about, my oldest son and my youngest son, but my oldest son, he's just so brilliant with so many things. He really has a PhD mind in philosophy. He is such an incredible philosopher in those things. He says to me sometimes, he goes, Dad, he goes, I don't know, I have all this useless information in my head, but I just remember it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of stuff. But then he can also tell you, oh, in philosophy, some deep, deep philosopher, he'll talk about so and so said this and this and this. He hadn't read that book for years, but
Right.
he'll tell you, yeah, it was in, I think it's his second chapter in volume two, and he says, da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, that's just hard enough to understand, let alone remember.
Yeah, the ability that we zone in and really the things that we're passionate about really stick. And
Yeah.
then the shadow side of that is the things that don't interest it. Like I always laugh and say when I meet with my financial planner, I focus on everything, I understand everything. The moment my body walks over the threshold of that office door, poof, it's gone. It's gone.
Oh, I can relate to that in so many ways.
I don't know where
Oh
it
my
went, but it's not in there
God.
anymore. But you want to ask me
Oh,
about nervous system or breath work or trauma, I can tell you all the things.
oh, that's great. Like, oh, this thing I thought was a flaw actually is be part of how God wired me on purpose
Yeah, yeah. And for his purpose, right?
for his purpose. That's so good. I mean, so I think, oh, that was great. Uh, for someone listening right now who's thinking, okay, I feel a little seen right now. Like
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sitting here going, I feel a little seen right now.
Called
Um,
out.
what are some practical, like evidence-based steps forward?
Yes.
Therapy, medication, coaching, daily rhythms, habits, whatever make a difference.
Yeah, all the things. Yes to all of those. But really important to recognize it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I can talk about some things that maybe helped me, and I would encourage you to try some of these things and
Mm-hmm.
see if they are supportive for you as well. But it isn't a one size fits all. But if you want to kind of piece it almost as like external structures, maybe like what are things, practical things that I could do that could allow me to kind of stay more on track. So, like, I am a heavy user of lists and to-do lists, like I had
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. I use the app Trello. It's
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Trello.
I use that too.
Ah, interesting. But that to me was so helpful. Even things like when I would go into a text message, and then I recently learned that you can read it, but then go in and mark it as unread. And I was like, oh, that's so helpful. So I don't forget to respond to people.
Yeah.
Um, Sending actually my aunt just taught me this, and I was like, wait, you're older than me. You're not supposed to be teaching me all the tech savvy things, but that you can send text messages like you can schedule them, right? So because we're in different time zones. So I always say, I want to text you, but then I know it's like 6 a.m. your time. And so
Mhm.
little practical things like this. I do what I call a fire list every day.
A fire list. Okay.
So I have my long to-do list, and it's so funny. It's like in quadrants, and it's all like home, work, kids, all whatever. And then what I do is I take a sticky note every day, and it's my fire list. And I will take one or two things from my big to-do list, and I will put it on my fire list. And I said, this is the only thing that I feel that I will react to like it's on fire, like that I have to do. All the other
To get
stuff,
it done.
nothing else is burning, nothing else is on fire. These are my fire things.
Oh, that's
Um,
brilliant.
and that allowed me to still be able to be productive without being so overwhelmed.
Hmm. Wow.
Um,
And how about medication? You touched on that a little bit.
yes, medication for me was a game changer. Again, even though it took me a little while to get around to it and feeling like it felt aligned for me. I'm on Vyvanse. That's the medication that, my therapist, who's also a doctor, felt would be the best fit. She was wonderful and explained all the different types and, which one she
Hmm.
thought would be the best fit. And I kind of got lucky that the first one I was on was such a good fit. So for me, it's been a game changer. And I'm not to the point where I, if I don't, like if I forget one day, I'm not, oh, I'm so scattered and I can't deal.
Yeah.
I do notice differences in how activated I feel, um, but it's more. I just feel like I'm back to where I was before with a little bit more effort to do
Yeah.
the things. So yeah, medication and therapy was
Right.
super, super helpful. And I always say, what you want is a little bit of all of it. You don't want
Right.
to just only be reliant on meds or only be reliant on therapy or only be reliant on some of these tasks or not tasks, I guess, ways of coping or managing, right?
Hmm. Right. It's a combination approach kind of thing, not just like this one thing, but building a supportive framework.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's great that you see, and this is where this conversation is so important, I think, for people to hear, is because here you are as a therapist
Hmm.
that have so much in your resources, in your toolbox
Yes.
to
Yeah.
understand all of this,
Hmm.
and to, instead of being afraid of it, to embrace it
Hmm.
and allow God to work through that.
Hmm.
And as we're talking, I'm thinking, and that we talked about, it's not a deficit, but it's a strength. It almost seems now like it's like this is Laura Bruno's superpower.
Dun, dun, dun. That's how I have chosen to see it. And I think, that again, because of the world I'm in and because I don't experience or have maybe the same stigma that others would
Right.
around mental illness because this is what I live and breathe and do every day. So it was very easy for me to say, cool, this is amazing.
Hmm.
Whereas if other people aren't in that world or, were raised in a different way or whatever it may be, this may be a harder leap for them to go
Hmm.
to of like, oh, this is my superpower.
Right. It's kind of like, I think about, there's a lot of people that ADHD just isn't, it might seem like it's just a mental health conversation. Like it's not. It's also a spiritual one. And you've
Hmm.
shared how it's even deepened your faith. It affects how they see themselves, how they think God sees them. So if you
Hmm.
look at it in terms of, oh, this is a deficit,
Right.
then you think God must think less of me,
Hmm.
right? But my sense here is, well, not just sense, but how you've shared it is that your diagnosis didn't affect you in that kind of negative identity way. It only heightened that understanding of the identity that God gave you and
Right.
sees you.
I mean, he doesn't make mistakes, right?
Right? No.
So it's okay. Great. Now, how
Hmm.
do I use this gift for I believe again, there is a purpose. We all have a purpose. And so
Hmm.
how do I utilize this and to move closer and to be more aligned with that purpose? And also appreciating how it has carried me throughout my whole life
Yeah.
to this point. And I actually had a moment where I was kind of proud of myself of saying, wow, I've had this my whole life, and I
Hmm.
am so resilient that I have found ways to make it work for me.
Right.
And it has led me to the place I am, which is feeling like truthfully I am acting in alignment with his purpose for me, using the gifts that have been provided. And so, yeah, it feels good to be here.
That is awesome. Wow. What this has been one of my favorite conversations in a long time. I mean, all of them are great. Don't get me wrong, but I've just had so much fun here with you today, Laura. This has been amazing, and I think it's going to be so helpful. It was helpful to me. I'm thinking of how many people this can be an encouragement to, who
Hmm.
maybe have had this diagnosis, and they're looking back and going, oh man, look at all the, I can see how it messed up my life here and here and here. But in essence, and maybe, yeah, some things have happened because of it that you didn't realize. And you're kind of dealing with the fallout from that, but it doesn't have to be that failure.
Hmm.
It can be more of a misunderstanding, but now that you know, where can you move on from here,
Yeah.
right? More of an encouragement. So this has been an amazing conversation, and honestly, for some people listening, this might be the first time they've had language for what they've been experiencing for years. That, if that's you, I mean, folks, if that's you watching, listening, you're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not too much.
Hmm.
You might just be seeing yourself more clearly now for the first time. And that's not the end of the story. That's actually where things start to make sense. So if you want to learn more, we'll include some helpful resources in the show notes as well. So, Laura, is there any parting words that you want to give us?
I think just awareness changes everything. I always say awareness is the first step to change. And
Hmm.
so, just as my therapist kind of hit me with a ton of bricks with those 6 words, maybe something from this podcast is hitting one of the listeners in the same way. So just be gentle with yourself. That's okay. Just because you become aware doesn't mean you have to act immediately. I took some time, I took a pause, I reflected, I educated, you know, just I encourage kind of this lens of curiosity versus judgment because that will serve you well. That will prevent you from going in that shame spiral. And it
Hmm.
will keep you open to seeing whatever you discover as a gift, as a surplus, as a benefit, not
Yeah.
something that you need to be afraid of or run away from or suppress because
Hmm.
if you are neurodivergent like I am, you can't shame your brain into functioning better. That doesn't work,
Work
right?
with what you've got. You're wired for a reason, the way God has
Yeah,
wired you. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That's a good word. Thank you,
Hmm.
Laura, for being here today. Just, yeah, wonderful to have you on board,
Thank you. Thanks for
and for your
having me.
support for Agora. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So, Hope for the Agora is part of Agora Network Ministries, and Agora Network Ministries is there to help equip, resource, and support the church to understand mental health. And as they minister to those they serve, support the church. So as we serve others who are struggling, we are better equipped and understand better. So you can find more information at agoranetworkministries.com. And if you would, as a little side note, like to financially support our podcast, Hope for the Agora, maybe sponsor some episodes, we'll provide a link to that in the footnotes as well. And as always, if this conversation helped you, share it with someone who might need it. I think today's could be shared a lot because again, maybe I need to be talking to somebody, but who knows? Because chances are you're not the only one asking these questions. So thanks for being here, and God bless you for the rest of this day.